Welcome to Narrative Deceit Studio. I previously believed loyalty was a reward from years of devotion. However, I discovered my error. At times, loyalty is merely a term used while evaluating how much more one can exploit before the breaking point is reached. My name is Nathan Cross, aged 41, and 6 months ago, I departed my marriage with merely a travel bag and the peaceful conviction that I had outmaneuvered my wife in her own game. She considered me feeble, trapped. She was mistaken. Allow me to transport you to the beginning, not when I left, but when I understood it was necessary. It was a Tuesday night in late March. I had just returned from work as a senior project manager at a civil engineering firm. I'd been working overtime on a municipal contract, the type of job that maintains city infrastructure but lacks the allure for lively dinner discussions. Exhausted, I stepped into our suburban 3-bedroom colonial home, a house I had partially financed 7 years back with my savings from the 20s. My wife Vanessa was in the kitchen, engrossed in her phone and a glass of wine. She didn't bother to acknowledge my arrival. "Hey," I said, placing my briefcase on the floor. "How was your day?" she responded dismissively. "Fine, there are leftovers in the fridge if you want them. No warm welcome, no affection, not even a glance." This had become our routine. I heated some pasta and sat at the kitchen table. Vanessa remained engrossed in her phone. After a while of silence, I tried to engage her again. "Perhaps this weekend, we could visit that winery you mentioned earlier, just the two of us." She finally looked up, her expression not quite scornful but close. "Why should I invest my weekend confined in a vehicle?" Your words felt as chilling as icy water, not because they were startling. Vanessa had been subtly harsh for quite some time now, but because it seemed effortless for her to express it. "I thought it might be pleasant," I said softly. "Pleasant," she echoed, on the verge of laughter. "We aren't that kind of couple. We haven't been for a long time, don't you remember?" I put down my fork. "Then who are we?" She pondered over her wine, taking a long sip. "We are the ones who remain together because it's more convenient than the alternative, because dividing assets is burdensome, because everyone we know anticipates us to persevere." She shrugged. "We are roommates who jointly pay the mortgage." In that instant, something inside me changed. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was a clear, unyielding realization that things would not improve. Vanessa wasn't experiencing a temporary change or managing stress. She was asserting her chosen identity, and I happened to be the convenient target. "What if I don't want to be roommates?" I questioned. She dismissed my concern with a dismissive eye roll. "What are you going to do, Nathan? Are you going to divorce me?" The arrogance in her tone, her certainty that I wouldn't dare, made me realize she believed she had me under control. She thought I was too comfortable, too risk-averse, too worn out to ever truly leave. That night I remained silent. I finished my meal, cleaned my plate, and retired to the guest room where I had been sleeping for the past 4 months. Yet her smirk lingered in my memory, and I began plotting. The next morning I contacted a lawyer, not just any attorney, but Kenneth Brennan, a divorce specialist whom one of my colleagues had utilized 2 years prior. Kenneth was known for his meticulousness, strategic thinking, and indifference towards emotional turmoil. On that Friday, during my lunch break, I encountered him at his downtown office. He was Ken, around 55, with graying hair and an unimpressed demeanor, suggesting he had witnessed numerous human complexities without being swayed. As we sat down, he inquired about my circumstances. I shared my story. 9 years of marriage, no children, as Vanessa had been resolute against it. The house was under both our names, though I had provided the initial down payment from my grandmother's inheritance. Our finances were joint, although I contributed roughly 70% of our combined income. Vanessa worked as a marketing coordinator for a nonprofit, having shifted roles 3 years ago from a corporate position in search of greater purpose. Ken then inquired about any infidelity. I conceded that I wasn't sure. "She's acting suspiciously for more than a year, guarding her phone closely. She often takes calls privately, yet no messages or evidence have surfaced." Kenneth nodded in agreement while taking notes. "What specific result are you seeking?" I questioned. "I want out," I replied. "I desire a swift, clean, and equitable departure, not seeking retribution. I simply wish to move on." Kenneth responded, "Fairness can be subjective." He then delved into Washington state's community property laws, explaining that everything acquired during the marriage would typically be divided equally unless we could prove separate property or negotiate differently. My inheritance used for the down payment added complexity since it might be traced and excluded from marital assets. However, this would necessitate documentation. "My suggestion is," Kenneth concluded, "we proceed quietly. Gather necessary financial records, set up distinct accounts, and document the existing condition of your assets. Prior to filing, we will execute a strategic approach. It's advantageous to show that the marriage has been irreparable for an extended period, thereby expediting the process. I inquired about the duration. In Washington, he replied, there's a compulsory 90-day waiting period from when you submit the divorce petition until it can be finalized. However, the preparatory work may take as long as needed. Some clients complete it in weeks while others require months. The crucial aspect is thoroughness. Kenneth provided me with a detailed checklist. I required bank statements dating back 5 years, mortgage documents, proof of my inheritance and its utilization, documentation of our separate expenditures, evidence of Vanessa's spending habits, and measures to financially safeguard myself. Ken suggested I set up a separate checking account and deposit my paycheck there, not for concealing funds that could be misconstrued in court, but to secure financial autonomy, preventing Vanessa from impulsively depleting our shared account. During the weekend, while Vanessa was out with friends, I invested 6 hours sorting through our home offices, filing cabinets, and digitizing documents. I uncovered all relevant documents: my grandmother's estate inheritance papers, house purchase closing documents revealing my down payment, bank statements displaying regular salary deposits and smaller, irregular contributions from Vanessa's income. Additionally, I discovered an unfamiliar credit card statement, in Vanessa's name alone, opened 2 years ago with a balance of $14,000. The charges were intriguing: hotels in Seattle, restaurants unknown to me, charged alongside her. Unforeseen Portland weekend trip documented by me, images dispatched to Kenneth. His reply arrived Monday morn. This is useful, continue collecting. Over the ensuing month, I morphed into an unseen presence within my marriage, treating Vanessa cordially yet maintaining a cool distance. Initiating discussions or making arrangements fell by the wayside. I followed my usual work schedule, returned home, prepared meals, and spent my evenings in the guest room, either reading or streaming shows on my laptop. Vanessa appeared unaware of this shift, or if she was, she didn't show concern as she was engrossed in her own life, with social outings and weekend excursions that required minimal explanation. I refrained from posing questions, instead choosing to record the events. By late May, Kenneth informed me we were prepared. I had created a separate bank account, depositing my paychecks there for 6 weeks. I gathered all important financial documents, and even arranged for a discreet appraisal of the house using an independent appraiser recommended by Kenneth to ensure accurate current market value for the property. Do you need the file? Kenneth inquired during our meeting, to which I replied, as soon as possible, but added, I prefer a strategic approach. I don't desire any drama. I want to present the papers and move on. Kenneth slightly smiled. Many prefer the conflict, the dramatic moment. Not me, I said. I just want my life back. We submitted the paperwork on a Wednesday. In Washington state, after filing for divorce, you must serve the other party with the summons and petition. Kenneth arranged for a professional to handle the service, but I made a particular request. I wanted Vanessa served at her workplace during business hours in front of her colleagues, not for humiliation, but for witnesses. I desired no ambiguity about her notification. I did not want her to claim confusion or surprise later. The server delivered the documents on Friday afternoon. 4:30 p.m., Kenneth contacted me to verify the completion of service. Despite being at work when my phone began vibrating, I let it go to voicemail as Vanessa persistently called and texted. By the time I left the office at 6 p.m., there were 11 missed calls and numerous anxious messages. What's this nonsense? You filed for divorce? Are you serious at this moment? Call me now. NATHAN, answer your phone. I chose not to return her call. Upon arriving home, parking in the driveway, and entering through the front door as usual, Vanessa was waiting in the living room, still dressed for work and visibly upset, whether from tears or anger I couldn't discern. The divorce papers were strewn across the coffee table. What is this? She demanded, pointing at them. It's a petition for dissolution of marriage, I responded calmly. I can't just, she hesitated, unable to complete her sentence. You can't merely file for divorce without discussing it with me first. To that I replied, I indeed can, and I have. Her gaze turned puzzled on me, almost as if I was a stranger. Remember 2 months ago, I added, when you asked me what my intentions were and I mentioned divorce, you scoffed at the idea, so I responded accordingly. It wasn't genuine, she retorted loudly. I never thought you would actually go through with it, I concluded. Exactly, that's why I did, I said. Vanessa's face twisted from surprise to contemplation as she tried to plan her next step. This is absurd. We can still reconcile. We could attend therapy. We could— No, I interjected briefly. It's over. The paperwork has been filed. You have 90 days to submit your financial disclosure and any objections to the proposed asset distribution. My attorney's details are in the documents. Yours. She glanced at the papers, scanning them. How long have you been preparing for this? Long enough to ensure everything is done correctly. There was a moment of silence before her expression shifted. A surge of raw anger took over. Crafty devil, haven't you been transferring funds without telling me? You've been keeping secrets. I haven't concealed anything, I countered. Every penny I've earned has been accounted for. I opened a separate account to safeguard my income because I doubted your ability to manage our joint accounts prudently. You sensed this was imminent, and from your current response it seems my intuition was spot on. She tossed the papers back onto the table. Very well, if you want a divorce, you'll get one, but I'm taking half of everything, the house, our savings, your retirement funds, community property, I declared. I understand my attorney has already calculated it, and you'll receive precisely what you're entitled to under Washington law, no more than that. Let's see about that, she retorted. Your attorney will. My lawyer conveyed the same message yours did, I mentioned. In this state, assets amassed during marriage are equally divided unless there's proof of separate property or an alternative arrangement is made, which I'm not proposing, so you'll receive half of the marital assets and I will too. It's just basic arithmetic. Vanessa's hands trembled. I can't accept this from you. I can't believe it took me so long to do this, I murmured softly. I passed her and climbed the stairs to our bedroom, a place I hadn't slept in for months, and began packing. I had already transferred most of my essential possessions to a storage unit over the past 2 weeks, but I wanted my remaining clothes, personal items, and a few cherished belongings. Vanessa joined me upstairs. Where are you going? I replied as I filled a duffel bag with shirts. I've rented an apartment starting tomorrow. It's nearby on a month-to-month lease. Have you already rented a new place? Yes. How long have you been contemplating this decision? She inquired again, her voice now trembling slightly. I paused my packing and turned to face her fully. Vanessa was 38 years old, striking, intelligent, and for the most part of 2 years treated me as an annoyance, a habitual tolerance. Now confronted with real repercussions from her behavior, she seemed on the verge of collapse. I've been considering this since the night you inquired about my future plans, I replied. Since that night when it became clear to you that you thought I was too feeble or too dim-witted or too content to ever actually depart, you were mistaken. She sat down on the edge of the bed. I never intended it that way. Indeed, you did silence Nathan, she said at last, and her voice had softened, nearly begging. We've been together for 9 years. Don't throw it all away over a few difficult months. It's been more than a few months, I responded. For years you've distanced yourself, treated me with disrespect, spent money we can't afford on things you refuse to discuss. I found the credit card labeled Vanessa with a balance of $14,000, hotel bills in Seattle, a trip to Portland, all without your explanation. Her face paled. That's not. I don't care, I told her, interrupting. I don't care if you were unfaithful or simply living apart. Either way, you abandoned our marriage long ago. I'm just making it formal. She remained silent as I finished packing. That night I left, put my bags in the car, drove to a hotel near my office, and stayed there until my apartment was ready. I turned off my phone and slept for 10 consecutive hours. When I awoke on Saturday morning, I felt lighter than I had in years. The subsequent 90 days were chaotic as expected. In the divorce proceedings, Vanessa retained attorney Patricia Delgado, known for advocating women's rights. Delgado promptly filed motions contesting all aspects of the case, accusing the husband of concealing assets and asserting that the marital home should solely belong to Vanessa due to her maintenance efforts while he worked excessively. She further alleged that he owed spousal support as she had forsaken her career to boost his advancement. However, these contentions were not substantiated. Kenneth countered each claim with evidence such as bank statements demonstrating no asset concealment, mortgage documents revealing the down payment was from inherited funds, and employment records showing Vanessa voluntarily left her corporate job instead of supporting him. The spousal support argument, in particular, lacked merit under Washington law, which bases it on financial need and ability to pay, typically applying only to extended marriages or substantial income disparities. After 9 years of marriage, we were almost at the 10-year mark where things could have gotten more intricate. Despite my higher income, Vanessa had a steady job that allowed her self-sufficiency. Kenneth's response was essentially a polite rejection. We proposed an equal division of all marital assets, no spousal support, and each party covering their own legal expenses, take it or go to court. Vanessa's attorney advised her to accept it. I learned this from a colleague who knew Patricia. Court proceedings would have cost us both tens of thousands in legal fees, and Patricia was aware that Vanessa didn't have a strong case for anything beyond the standard community property distribution. Exactly 3 months and 2 days after I filed, our divorce became final. At the courthouse, we met with our lawyers, signed the final decree, and that was it. In just 15 minutes of paperwork, 9 years of marriage dissolved. The division of assets was straightforward. The house was valued at $450,000. We still owed $200,000 on the mortgage, leaving an equity of $250,000. My down payment, amounting to $75,000 from my inheritance, was acknowledged as separate property and returned to me. The rest of the equity was divided equally between us 50-50, as Vanessa couldn't afford to buy me out, and I didn't want the house due to its associated negative memories. We quickly sold it, given its desirable location and excellent school district. After deducting closing costs, we received $260,000, slightly above the appraised value. The $75,000 from my separate property was refunded to me, with the remaining $100,000 and $85,000 being divided evenly. Considering our combined marital assets such as savings, checking accounts, retirement funds, I received approximately $240,000 in settlement. Vanessa obtained around $130,000, protesting that it was unfair that I got more. Patricia had to clarify once more that my inheritance was separate property. Using the proceeds, I purchased a small 2-bedroom condo close to downtown and began rebuilding my life. At 41 years old, I was single for the first time in a decade, finding tranquility. The initial months were peculiar as I'd been accustomed to survival mode, suppressing emotions, handling Vanessa's moods, mapping my exit, that I had forgotten the sensation of merely coexisting without persistent stress. It wasn't until I no longer had to cope with her that I realized the amount of energy I had expended on managing her. I began running in the mornings and joined a recreational basketball league through my workplace. I rekindled friendships I had neglected during my marriage, connecting with college companions, ex-colleagues, individuals whom Vanessa always found reasons to evade. I also immersed myself in work. A municipal contract I was overseeing concluded successfully, resulting in a promotion to the Senior Director of Project Operations, offering increased responsibility, higher pay, and a skilled team who acknowledged my contributions. For the first time in years, I felt like my true self. From time to time, I learned about Vanessa through common contacts. It seemed she had moved in with a new partner, someone she met through her charitable work. I didn't delve deeper into the details. Frankly, it held no interest for me. Approximately 4 months post our divorce finalization, I unexpectedly encountered her at a downtown cafe. Coincidentally, I was picking up something before a morning meeting, and she was there with a companion. Our eyes met across the establishment. She approached. "Nathan," she said, her tone was indifferent. "Proceed with caution, Vanessa. How are you?" "Well," I replied truthfully. "And you," she acknowledged. Good. There was an uncomfortable silence. Her friend observed from afar, evidently intrigued. "I heard you received a promotion," Vanessa mentioned. "Congratulations, thank you." Another pause ensued. Eventually, she spoke up. "I realized things weren't ideal at the end. I merely wanted to let you know I don't harbor resentment towards you." She showed signs of exhaustion as I scrutinized her face. She seemed more weary than I had recalled, yet oddly improved. "I don't hold your departure against you," I commented. "Nor do I harbor animosity towards you," she responded slowly. "I had to go," she explained. I understood then what I hadn't before. "I see," was all I said, keeping my voice low. She prepared to depart, but hesitated. "Remember the comment about me asking what you intended to do about doing it?" She gave a faint smile, one that didn't touch her eyes. "That was astute, albeit chilly. It wasn't being cold, it was self-protection," I clarified. "Yes, I understand," she conceded, then whispered softer, "I'm glad you did." She left, and I followed suit, completing my coffee before attending a meeting, all the while feeling nothing, no resentment, no sorrow, no remorse, only tranquility. That was 6 months past. Currently, I'm in my condo on a Sunday morning sipping coffee and gazing at the city skyline. Next weekend, I have a date scheduled with a female coworker from another department who I met at our company's summer gathering, a civil engineer who enjoys bad action films just like me and finds my humor amusing. Our future together is uncertain. It might develop or not. Either way, for the first time in years, I feel eager to discover what happens. Occasionally, people inquire if I have regrets about how I managed things with Vanessa, if I wish I'd fought harder to preserve the marriage or given her a heads up before filing. My response remains consistent. No, because here is my wisdom. You cannot compromise with someone who doesn't value you. You cannot salvage a relationship with someone who views you as a convenience rather than a partner. And under no circumstances can one remain married where they are merely tolerated instead of cherished. Vanessa perceived me as trapped. She considered me weak. She presumed I wouldn't muster the courage to depart, but she was mistaken. The advantage of being underestimated is that no one anticipates your arrival. They overlook the strategizing, the readying, the instant when you determine you've had enough of feeling insignificant. All they perceive are the documents. All they hear is the door shut. By the time they discern what transpired, you're already vanished, yes. When she inquired about my intentions, I demonstrated I had already acted upon them. Thanks for listening to my tale. If you've ever felt confined or undervalued, let this serve as a reminder that you always possess more strength than you believe. At times, the bravest act is leaving while maintaining your dignity. Take care of yourselves. And bear in mind, loyalty ought never be one-sided.